Discover the heartwarming journey of a father's hidden love transformed by an incredible tragedy. Jim was a weathered soul, a Midwestern farmer molded by the sun. He spent days embracing the earth, every calloused handprint on the soil a testament to his labor. But beneath his sturdy exterior lay a heart heavy with doubt, questioning if he truly measured up as a father and provider. The air was thick with anticipation as the annual harvest festival approached, a celebration of community and hard-earned crops. Jim wanted nothing more than to see pride reflected in his wife Mary's eyes and hear laughter from his children, Jake and Lily, as they enjoyed the festivities. Yet, anxiety gnawed at him like the crows feasting on his ripened corn. The day of the festival dawned bright, lively chatter floated in the air, crafted from a tapestry of hope. Jim watched his family, Mary's gentle smile, Lily's spark of joy as she raced to the barn, and Jake's hesitant demeanor. Jim's heart tightened. He knew his son felt the weight of expectations, silently begging for his approval. But what if he wasn't enough? The thought blossomed like weeds in his field, choking out the joy he so desperately wished for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but fate had other plans. In an instant, a freak accident shattered Jim's world. He lay still in the hospital, faced with the stark, sterile reality of rehabilitation. The vibrant dreams of his family seemed like mere whispers, fading echoes of the love that thrived on the farm. Mary was left to shoulder burdens alone, and Jake, with his aspirations of leaving for college, felt trapped under looming expectations. Tension simmered as silent grievances festered, a family bound by unspoken words. On a night laden with unexpressed feelings, a fierce confrontation erupted. "You don't understand me." Jake's voice cracked, suffocated by frustration. "Every day I work, I do it for you." Jim's retort sliced through the stillness, but behind the anger was a deep, unrelenting love, longing to connect. But as Jake stormed out, Jim's eyes stung with unshed tears. The emptiness within their home felt palpable, a hollow reminder of how despair can echo through empty spaces. Hope flickered when Jake stumbled upon the old trunk in the attic, a treasure trove of Jim's written words. Each letter was a glimpse into his father's soul, stories of dreams, fears, and connections crafted in silence. Here lay the essence of Jim, the sacrifices he made stitched together with love that never wavered. Just as the ember of hope began to warm, it all led back to that night, to the unscalable wall of emotions that separated father and son. As the heart of the Midwestern town prepared to join together for celebration, Jim knew they were teetering on the edge, a crossroad poised between healing and heartache. Would the spirit of their family withstand the storm of resentment? In the shadow-drenched silence of their home, Jim reached toward his son, fingers trembling, yearning for reconciliation. Would they find a way back into the light, or would the specter of regret keep them locked in their own hearts, forever separated? The harvest festival buzzed just beyond the walls of their home, but inside, a different kind of harvest had begun. Jim inhaled deeply, letting the heavy silence settle around him. What if he found the courage to walk out, to join Mary, Jake, and Lily, despite the chasm that had formed? With a deep breath, he wiped his eyes and stood, determination igniting within him. He began to shuffle toward the door, his heart pounding like the drumbeats of a distant parade. Outside, laughter and music echoed through the air like a lifeline. Children dashed past, their faces smeared with the remnants of caramel apples, while the aroma of roasting corn wafted through the flurry of activity. Yet, amidst the festive cheer, he felt the weight of his regret pressing down on him. Would they be happy to see him? Would Jake forgive him? His family appeared before him, a tableau of joy and laughter, but for Jim, it was framed by insecurities. Mary spotted him first, her bright eyes dimming for just a moment before she smiled, their shared history swimming in the glance they exchanged. "You made it," she called out, her voice a beacon of warmth that cut through the cloud of uncertainty. Lily squealed, racing toward him. "Daddy! Look at my ribbons!" She jumped up and down, pride shimmering in her eyes. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within Jim. He knelt down, enveloping her in a tight hug, inhaling her sweet scent, feeling anchored despite the storm inside him. But when he straightened, Jake stood a few paces away, arms crossed tightly over his chest. The boy's face was a mask of unresolved hurt, casting a shadow on his father's heart. "I thought you weren't coming," Jake muttered, his words like shards of glass. Jim's throat tightened. He barely managed to start before the words tangled in his mind. Both wanted to bridge the gap, yet neither knew how. "I'm here now," he finally said, the uncertainty barely masking the love behind his eyes. "I don't think that's enough anymore." Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, yet it cut through the noise of the festival sharply. Jim flinched, as all his fears rushed back like a flood. He felt helpless, knowing this was the moment to fight for his son's trust. "I've missed so much while I was lost in my own head," he confessed. The admission felt raw, like unveiling a wound that had festered for so long. Jake's brow furrowed, confusion mingling with defiance. "You don't get to say that. Not after everything." Tension hung in the air, thick as the clouds before a storm. Jim struggled to find the words. He wanted to explain, to reveal all those letters stashed away in the attic. The ones he had never had the courage to share. Behind every scrawled line lay the truth of his love, overwhelming and sincere. "Jake, please," he urged, stepping closer, feeling his heart race. "I wish you could see how proud I am of you. I've made mistakes, but I want to change that." Before Jake could respond, Mary interjected, her voice gentle yet firm. "Let us take some time together. Just us. We can find a way to rebuild what's been broken." Jim's heart seized at her suggestion. It felt like a lifebuoy in a raging sea. Could they really start anew? Would Jake allow the walls to break down? As the echoes of the festival called out for them, hope sprouted, fragile but undeniable. At that moment, Jim's eyes locked onto Jake's. In that silence, amidst the roar of the celebration, there emerged an unspoken question. Would they dare to open their hearts to one another? The sun slipped lower in the sky, setting a canvas of gold in the air, illuminating the way forward if only they could grasp it together. As night began to cast its shadow, Jim took a small step toward his son, determined to heal the rift. Would they seize this chance to connect, or would fear hold them back once more? The festival throbbed with life around them, but for Jim, the world seemed to blur. Each breath he took felt heavier as he stood in that flash of time, waiting for Jake to answer. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the warmth of the day gave way to an encroaching chill. "Can we just go over there?" Jake finally suggested, nodding toward a quieter corner near the bonfire. His voice held a tremor, a mixture of resentment and longing. It felt like a small crack in the fortress he built around his feelings. "Sure, buddy." Jim's heart raced as he followed, hope flickering like the flames ahead. Each step was laden with years of missed moments, and as they settled onto a bench under the flickering light, he could almost hear the beating of their hearts in the silence. Mary's tender eyes watched from a distance, her expression a mix of encouragement and caution. She understood all too well the bridge they needed to cross. As much as Jim wished to embrace the warmth of their family, the distance between him and Jake felt insurmountable. "Why did you stay away?" Jake's voice was suddenly small, carrying the weight of 100 broken promises. "Mom always said you had a lot going on, but it felt like you didn't want to be here." A lump formed in Jim's throat. "I thought I was protecting you," he managed, fighting to keep his voice steady. "But in trying to shield you from my struggles, I ended up hurting you more. I thought if I stayed away, I could fix myself first, but I see now that I just wanted to hide." Jake looked down, kicking at an invisible stone, the glow from the bonfire casting flickering shadows on his face. "Do you even care? Do you still want to be my dad?" Each word felt like a blow, and Jim's heart cracked open. He leaned forward, desperation surging within him. Jake, I do care. I always have. I'm sorry for what I've put you through. I know I can't take back time, but I want to show you that I'm here now. I want to be better. Jake's brows furrowed, conflict racing across his face. But what if you leave again? What if it's just words? I get it. I do. Jim paused, searching his son's eyes for signs of the boy he once knew. Can we start small? Can we find moments to be together? I'm committed to this. No more hiding. I promise. There was stillness between them, the crackling of the fire their only witness. The weight of trust hung in the balance, and Jim felt a flicker of hope blend with fear. This was a chance to rebuild, but would they dare to embrace it? Finally, Jake lifted his eyes, meeting his father's gaze. The hurt was still there, but something deeper simmered beneath a glimmer of willingness. Okay, let us try. But I'm not making any promises, Dad. Jim's heart soared. Trying is enough for me. It's all I need right now. In that moment, they shared a tentative smile, just a crack in the wall of hurt. As laughter and music faded softly into the background, it felt like a fragile promise of what could be, but as the night deepened, doubts crept back into Jim's mind. Could he truly become the father Jake needed? The festival continued around them, but their world felt small, focused solely on healing. Would the scars of the past ever fully fade, or were they destined to linger like shadows in the flickering flame? As the smoke curled into the warm night sky, Jim wondered what if the biggest battle of all was still to come. The night wrapped around them like a thick blanket, the warmth of the bonfire battling the coolness creeping in with the darkness. The festival pulsed on, lively and loud, yet in their little corner, it felt as if time stood still. Jim looked at Jake, his son's profile illuminated by the firelight, and felt a mix of determination and dread settle in his gut. Okay, Dad, Jake said, breaking the spell of silence. What do you want to do to start? Jim shifted on the bench, trying to gather his thoughts. How about we just talk? Really talk. What do you want to know? His voice was firm, but inside, he felt vulnerable, exposing the core he had guarded for so long. Jake hesitated, studying the flames before looking back at his father. Do you really want to know? His tone mixed challenge with curiosity. You said you're here now, right? Why not share a bit? An ache pinched Jim's heart. He had spent years crafting a narrative of solitude, but the truth was far messier. Okay, yeah. I had my struggles. I thought pushing you away was for the best. I was battling my own demons. He searched for the right words, wanting to be honest without overwhelming Jake. I lost my job. I was stressed all the time. It felt like I was drowning. Jake frowned. But you seemed to be okay whenever you were around us. You just left. I should have called. I should have fought harder for us, Jim admitted, a tremor in his voice. But I thought, if I could get back on my feet, it would make things easier for you. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. The fire crackled, embers lifting into the night, but Jake stayed silent, his eyes boring into the flames as if seeking answers within their dance. Jim felt the weight of every unspoken word pressing down on them both. What has been hardest for you? Jake finally asked, hesitance still lingering. You've never really talked about it, Dad. Jim took a deep breath, willing himself to stay present. The hardest part was feeling like I failed you. Every single day, I thought about you and how I wasn't there. My heart ached seeing you grow, knowing that I was missing out. I was afraid to face you, afraid that I'd only make things worse. Jake blinked quickly, fighting emotions that threatened to rise. It hurt, Dad. Not having you there. It still does. Sorrow washed over Jim, but he sensed a shift in the air, a softening, a willingness to confront their truth together. I want to change that. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. Just allow me the chance to earn it back. Jake met his gaze, their eyes locking in a moment that felt monumental. It's just a lot to process. I need time. Time is what I'm asking for, Jim replied, sincerity coursing through him. I don't want to rush this. I just want you to know I'm here, and I want to be involved. Nodding slowly, Jake leaned back, the tension beginning to lift. Just don't disappear again, okay? I don't think I can handle that. I promise. No more disappearing. As laughter burst anew from the festival crowd, Jim felt a flicker of hope rise, yet shadows clung to the edges of his mind. They had begun to build something different, but could it hold up against the storms yet to come? In that little cocoon of warmth, he realized healing was only beginning. As the night deepened and stars sprinkled the sky, he knew they stood at a precipice. A new chapter was dawning, carved from the raw honesty between father and son. But looming questions swirled, a blend of hope and fear. What would happen when the past echoed again, and would they have the strength to face it together? The crackle of the fire mingled with the distant laughter, creating a soundtrack of warmth that felt almost surreal. Jim watched the flames flicker, reflecting on how so much hung on this fragile moment. It was strange to think that an apology, a simple admission of failure, had brought them to this point. The truth had a way of burning away the shadows, and now they stood at the edge of something new. Dad, Jake said, drawing Jim's attention back. So, if you're being honest, what do you want from me now? The question felt like a weight dropping into Jim's stomach. What did he want? His mind raced, trying to articulate the yearning he held inside. I want to be part of your life again. I want to help you in whatever way I can. Jake shifted his gaze, staring into the fire. It's not that easy, you know. Just showing back up and expecting everything to be fine. I know, Jim replied. And I wouldn't blame you for being angry or distant. But please, just give me a chance to prove that I'm committed. I'll take the time it takes. Frustration flashed in Jake's eyes. You keep saying that, but what if you disappear again just when I start thinking things might be okay? Jim felt the sting of that statement like a slap. He reached out, placing a steadying hand on Jake's shoulder. I understand why you're scared. Believe me, I get it. But I need you to trust me just a little. Let us be real with each other. I'm here now. We can work through this together. As the words left his mouth, something shifted. Jake inhaled deeply, the tension still coiling in his body. All right, he finally said. But it's going to take time. Time is all I ask, Jim echoed, relief flooding him. How about we start with something simple? Just hang out together, like old times. We can catch up on everything we've missed. Jake smiled a little, a hesitant twist of lips. Old times? We haven't exactly got much to go back to. Maybe not, but we can create new ones. How about right here, right now? Jim gestured towards the festival. We could grab some food, play some games. Just be. The hesitance lingered in the air, but curiosity sparked in Jake's eyes. Okay, but no disappearing halfway through the night. There are a lot of food stalls I want to check out. Deal. Jim smiled, hope blooming in his chest. They stood up together, Jim feeling a mix of jitters and excitement as they made their way toward the lively crowd. The festival lights twinkled like stars above them, wrapping them in an atmosphere of possibilities. As they walked, people brushed past them, laughter blending with music in the background. Jim stole glances at Jake, marveling at how much he had grown, no longer the boy he remembered, but a young man with his own opinions and feelings. They approached a booth filled with homemade snacks, and the smell of sweet funnel cakes wafted in the air. What's that? Jake asked, eyes wide with interest. Funnel cake, Jim replied, grinning at the sight of the sugary treat. You're gonna love it. Let us get some. Jake exclaimed, a spark of enthusiasm lighting his face. As they ordered, Jim felt the warmth of connection grow stronger between them. With each bite, they exchanged stories, childhood memories, school days, dreams for the future. Laughter bubbled up, and for the first time in years, Jim felt a genuine sense of joy, but even in this newfound clarity, a shadow loomed. The night was still young, and beneath the surface of this revelry, unspoken fears lingered, fears of disappointing his son again, fears of the past catching up to them. "Hey, Dad." Jake's voice was suddenly serious. "What happens when things get tough again?" Jim looked deep into his son's eyes, an unspoken promise forming between them. "We face it together," he said slowly. "Whatever it is. Together." Jake nodded, uncertainty flickering, but it was their hope blooming like the fire they had shared. They might just have begun to navigate towards something better, but the journey ahead was still fraught with unknowns. As they wandered deeper into the festival, the music pulsed faster, and Jim realized that with each step they took, they were forging a new connection. But was it enough to endure the trials that lay ahead? The festival buzzed with energy as Jim and Jake moved deeper into the crowd. Colorful lights danced around them, casting a warm glow that felt almost magical. Yet even amidst the laughter and festivities, a knot of tension nestled in Jim's chest. Jake pointed excitedly towards a game booth where people were tossing rings onto bottles for oversized plush toys. "Come on, let us try that. Winner gets bragging rights," he challenged, raising an eyebrow. "All right, you're on," Jim replied, rolling up his sleeves. They approached the booth, and as Jake exchanged some cash for rings, Jim's heart raced not from the challenge, but from the moment. Here they were, 2 years apart, and now sharing something as simple as this. Jake went first, lining up his shot. He threw the ring, but it missed wide, bouncing off a nearby bottle. A laugh escaped his lips, and when Jim watched that smile spread across his son's face, it ignited something deep within him, a blend of love and regret. Regret for all the missed moments and smiles during the time apart. "All right, my turn," Jim said, determination fueling him. He took a breath and tossed his ring. With a satisfying clink, it landed perfectly atop a bottle. "Yes. Score 1 for the old man." Jim cheered, lifting his arms in victory. Jake shook his head, laughing, "You got lucky. I demand a rematch." As they played, their laughter echoed more and more. It was moments like this that filled the cracks of their relationship, but there were still pieces unhealed. Between rounds, Jim felt his heart pounding with a different kind of pressure. It was as if the weight of everything he wanted to say pressed against him. "Hey, Jake, can we take a quick break?" Jim suggested, his voice barely above the festivities. "Sure," Jake nodded, curiosity flickering in his eyes. They sidestepped to a quieter corner, the crowd's noise fading into a backdrop of murmurs and music. With a shaky exhale, Jim glanced at his son. "I know I keep saying we'll get through things together, but I want you to know I'm here to stay. No more running away." Jake's expression shifted, uncertainty etching across his face. "I want to believe that, Dad. But it's hard. We've been through so much. I get it, and I can't fix everything overnight. But I'm resolved to earn your trust. Even if I stumble along the way." Jake crossed his arms, considering his father's words. The honesty in Jim's voice was unnerving but also hopeful. "I just don't want to get my hopes up." "I'm not asking you to forget the past," Jim said, his heart racing with the vulnerability of admitting his own failings. "I'm asking for a chance to be part of your future, whether that means supporting you when things get tough or just being there when life gets mundane." Jake's gaze softened, and for a moment, the weight began to lift. "Okay, let us take it one step at a time. Just, show me you mean it." "Deal," Jim promised, feeling a spark ignite between them, a mutual understanding that together they would navigate the uncertainties. The crowd surged around them, and like the rhythms of the festival, life continued its vibrance. They stepped back into the fray, shoulders brushing against each other, a silent reassurance between them. Just as they headed toward another game, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, one that had the power to shatter this new fragile bond. Jim froze, heart pounding as the figure approached. It was Lisa, Jake's mother. And she looked more determined than ever. The moment felt electric, charged with tension and possibility. What would she say? Would she welcome them, or was this a confrontation waiting to happen? Jim glanced at Jake, who had turned pale, eyes fixed on the ground. "Dad," Jake whispered, his fear palpable. Jim swallowed hard, aware that the nights ahead could change everything again. Would they stand together when the world, or the past, came crashing down? Jim's breath hitched as Lisa drew closer, her presence like a sudden shadow over the warmth of the festival. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything he had just begun to build with Jake was at risk. "Jim," she said, her voice steady yet cold. "We need to talk." Jake's grip tightened around his father's arm, his body tense. "Maybe it's not the right time," Jim began, feeling that old instinct to protect his son rising to the surface. But Lisa wasn't having it. "Now is as good a time as any. We can't keep avoiding these conversations." The determination in her eyes was unmistakable. Jim took a deep breath, glancing at Jake. The uncertainty on his son's face was a reflection of his own fears. How much progress had they made, and how easily could it all unravel? "Let us step aside, okay?" Jim said gently, hoping to soothe the awkwardness. The three of them found a quieter space away from the exuberant sounds of the festival. The laughter of children and the music faded, leaving only the crunch of gravel beneath their feet. "Jake, how about you grab us some drinks?" Jim suggested, not wanting his son to feel cornered. He nodded, relieved for the break, and walked away, casting one last worried glance before disappearing into the crowd. "I'm not here to fight, Lisa," Jim said, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "I just want to focus on Jake." Lisa crossed her arms. "Is that really what you want? Or is it just what you tell yourself to feel better?" Her words stung, their sharpness cutting through the air like a knife. He pressed his lips together, wrestling with the urge to snap back. "I know I messed up. That's the past. I'm here now, trying to make things right." "Trying isn't enough," she shot back, her expression solid. "You think a few games and some heartfelt words will erase the hurt?" He needs stability, Jim. Not another whirlwind of hope. The bitter truth behind her words sunk in, and Jim felt the weight of his past mistakes crash back down on him. "I know," he admitted, looking down. "But I won't stop trying. I'm here for him." She took a deep breath, visibly softening for the first time. "I want what's best for him too. But you need to prove you're serious. Actions speak louder than words." Just then, Jake returned, drinks in hand, his smile faltering as he sensed the tension. "Did I miss something?" "Just some adult talk," Lisa replied, masking her earlier intensity with a casual tone. "Aren't you glad you're not an adult yet?" Jim said with a forced chuckle, hoping to lighten the moment. Jake cracked a small smile, but Jim could feel the heaviness in the air that lingered. They sipped their drinks, and for a while, silence enveloped the three of them, punctuated only by the distant sounds of laughter. Finally, Jake looked up at his mother, the uncertainty still there but mixed with a tinge of courage. "Mom, I want us to try again, together. Can we?" Lisa hesitated, glancing at Jim, who held his breath. Would she accept this moment? "I don't know, Jake," she said, studying her son's face. "But we can try to find common ground." Jim dared to hope. Maybe this was the start of something new for all of them, built upon honesty and effort. But as the initial spark of optimism flickered, he couldn't shake the feeling of an impending storm. What would they need to face together, and could they truly become a family again? Just then, a commotion erupted from near the games, pulling Jim's gaze back to the crowd. The source of the uproar was unclear, but the unease crept back into his thoughts. "Stay close," he warned Jake, instinctively stepping closer, feeling the encroaching shadows of doubt steal in again. What lay ahead remained uncertain, yet the tug-of-war of loyalty and fear hung powerfully between them. As they turned to navigate back toward the heart of the festival, one question echoed deep within Jim: would they really be ready when whatever chaos awaited them arrived? The commotion grew louder as they made their way toward the source, the uneasy energy in the air wrapping tighter around them. Jim glanced at Jake, who looked both excited and scared, his young instincts picking up on the tension that even Jim couldn't fully shake off. Each step felt heavy, a reminder of the intricate web of feelings between them. "Let us stick together," Jim said, glancing back at Lisa. She nodded but didn't offer a word, her eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for something, a sign that everything would be all right. When they reached the games area, it was chaotic. A group of teenagers was gathered, voices raised, hands gesturing wildly. A sudden thud echoed from the center, a plastic ball rolling away from the crowd like a lost soul. Jim's heart raced. "What is going on?" he asked, voice rising over the noise. Jake tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, look." He pointed, and Jim's stomach dropped. A boy lay sprawled on the ground, clutching his ankle, pain etched on his face. The crowd buzzed with a mix of concerns and whispers, some laughing at the spectacle. "Jake, stay here with your mom," Jim ordered, not wanting to leave his son's side but feeling an undeniable pull toward the boy. He stepped forward, instinctively moving into the throng. As he kneels down beside the boy, Jim's mind raced. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked, trying to sound calm, though his pulse quickened with anxiety. The kid's face was scrunched in pain, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Just twisted it, I think," he managed between gritted teeth. Jim could see the swelling already beginning, and his heart ached at the sight. "All right," Jim said softly, "stay still. I'm going to help you." He looked back at Jake and Lisa, who stood together, their expressions a mix of worry and helplessness. Lisa held Jake close, whispering words of reassurance, but Jim could see the fear in her eyes. "It's okay, buddy. Help is on the way," Jim spoke to the boy again. He felt a rush of protective instincts flooding back, the memories of his own parenting flooding his mind. Without thinking, he took off his jacket and wrapped it around the boy's shoulders to keep him warm. "Let us get you comfortable." As he spoke, he glanced back at Jake, who seemed to be absorbing the scene unfolding before him. For a young boy, the contrast of joyous festival and sudden chaos might be too much. The laughter and bright lights faded into an afterthought against the backdrop of pain and fear. In that moment, everything felt tied together: the past mistakes, the hope of a new future, and now this act of compassion. Jim realized that this was more than just a moment of crisis, it was a chance for Jake to see who he truly was, to see beyond the flaws and to witness someone standing against the backdrop of uncertainty. Just as help arrived in the form of festival staff, Jim felt a pair of eyes on him: Lisa's. In that brief connection, he saw her questioning expression shift to something softer, an acknowledgement of the man he was trying to be, but chaos wasn't done with them yet. A shout broke through the crowd, calling out Jim's name. He turned to see a familiar face approaching, a former friend from years past, looking frantic. "Jim! You need to come quick. It's happening again." The dread in those words gripped him tightly. What was happening again? Jim's heart raced as he pulled himself from the moment, the boy's pain and Lisa's gaze fading into the distance. The looming question hung between them now: what fresh chaos awaited, and would their fragile progress survive it? With determination firing in his chest, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As Jim forged through the crowd, a mix of anxiety and determination coursed through him. The festival's colors seemed to blur together, the cheerful sounds of laughter morphing into a distant echo. It felt surreal, how quickly an afternoon of joy could shift to a storm of urgency. His friend, Tony, caught up with him, face flushed and eyes wide with concern. "Jim, you remember the old abandoned building near the fairgrounds? There's been a collapse. Kids are trapped inside." Jim's breath caught in his throat. Memories of that building danced uncomfortably in his mind. An old structure, once full of dares and laughter, now its walls loomed ominously. The thought of children in danger struck a deep chord within him. These were lives, not just names in a news report. "Are they hurt? How many?" he asked, urgency sharpening his voice. Not sure. They went in there after the fair started. A couple of us spotted them and God, Jim, we need to move. Tony's voice trembled with fear. Jim nodded, adrenaline pushing him into action. He glanced back at Jake and Lisa, who had somehow moved closer during the commotion. Jake's blue eyes looked up at him, wide and bright with confusion, and Lisa's anxious gaze pierced through the noise. Mom, can I go? Jake asked, the excitement of adventure bubbling under his worry. Jim opened his mouth to respond but held back the instinct to shield his son completely. Jake had to learn the world could be both beautiful and dangerous. Stay with your mom, buddy. It's not safe. I have to help. Jim's heart twisted at the disappointment in Jake's gaze. He wanted to protect his son from every dark corner of life, but he also needed Jake to see bravery in action. Dad, Jake, please. Jim's voice softened, the plea mixing with resolve. He forced himself to look away, refocusing on the task ahead. Grab anyone you can find. We'll need more people, Jim said to Tony as they pushed through the crowd. Chaos surrounded them, screams of laughter merging with cries of alarm. The festival atmosphere had flipped upside down in an instant. They reached the fringes of the fair where the old building hunched against the setting sun, cloaked in shadows. Dust hung in the air, swirling with every step they took closer. A small group of teenagers was gathered near the entrance, their faces masks of fear and guilt. Where are they? Jim demanded. They went inside. We thought it was just a place to hang out, then the walls started cracking. It got so loud, we ran out. We didn't know, one of the kids stammered, voice breaking. The weight of his responsibility crashed down on Jim. We have to go in. We can't leave them, Dad. A sudden shout made Jim turn, terror flooding his chest as he found Jake staring at him, eyes wide. Stay back. Lisa pleaded, panic lacing her voice. No, let him come. A voice in the crowd spoke up, an older boy who had been part of the group, stepping forward. If we're going in, we need to do it together. Every fiber of Jim's being screamed to keep Jake safe, but the fire of decision flickered in his heart. Fear was a potent teacher. If Jake was going to understand courage, he had to witness it. All right, Jim said, feeling a mix of dread and pride. Stick close to me. As they prepared to head inside, darkness loomed ahead, a stark contrast to the light outside. Hold on to each other, Jim urged, knowing that stepping through that threshold would change everything. The fear within him transformed into purpose as they crossed the threshold. What would they find in the shadows and rubble? Was there time to save the trapped kids, or would they face a danger he could never imagine? With hearts pounding, they stepped beyond the door into an uncertain fate. Inside, the abandoned building loomed dark and silent. Dust motes danced in the air, illuminated by rays of fading sunlight streaming through cracks in the walls. It felt like stepping into a forgotten world, one filled with echoes of laughter gone awry. Stay close, Jim directed, his voice steadying as he led the way. Jake stood beside him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. At that moment, he wasn't just Jim's son, he was a partner in the daunting mission ahead. The floor creaked beneath their feet, a warning call in the silence. Can anyone hear us? Jim called out, hoping against hope for a response. Over here. A voice came, faint yet fueled by desperation. It echoed from deeper within the building, fueling Jim's resolve. He exchanged glances with Jake and the older boys, their expressions a fragile blend of determination. Follow me. Jim urged, pushing through the thickening darkness. They maneuvered around fallen debris, their senses heightened as every sound echoed off the walls. Jake followed closely, his heart racing, though Jim felt a flicker of pride. His son was showing courage like he'd never seen before. Another muffled voice called out, closer this time. Are you guys out there? We're trapped. We're coming. Jim shouted back, urgency coursing through him. Just hold on. They reached a doorway with shadows piled like thick fog. Something heavy was blocking it. Jim's heart thudded in his chest. His hands trembled as he took a deep breath, instructing the young men behind him to push. "On 3, he said. 1, 2, 3. With effort, they heaved the door open, dust spilling into the air as it creaked in protest. Inside, a dimly lit room revealed a small group of kids, huddled together, faces painted with fear but alive with hope at the sight of rescue. "Are you all right?" Jim asked, kneeling down to meet their gaze. "Yeah, but the way out is blocked," one girl cried, her voice shaky. Jake stepped forward, determination etching his features. "If we clear some space, we can make it." Jim turned to him, surprised and inspired. "You're right. Let us do it." Together, they rallied the kids, pushing against debris, hands working quickly. Time felt suspended, the outside world faded, all that existed was the mission getting everyone out safely. With every shifting piece of rubble, Jim felt not just the physical weight ease, but a weight within him, a sense of purpose solidifying. Finally, with a final shove, the passageway cleared, a sunlight path breaking through the grime. "There. Go," Jim commanded, watching as the kids hurried toward freedom. Before he could remind Jake to stay close, he burst forward. "I'm right behind you," Jim shouted, his eyes locked on his son. As the group made their escape, anxiety twisted Jim's gut. Would their breakthrough bring them safety or danger? Jake emerged from the building first, gasping fresh air, his face alive with adrenaline. He turned back, his expression one of pure triumph but quickly transformed to worry as he glanced at Jim still lingering behind. "Dad, come on!" he cried, panic flooding his voice as the shadows behind them groaned. "Help the others!" Jim urged, his heart pounding like a drum. "I'll be right there." He turned back, the already dim light turning additional corners of the room black as he lunged toward the last of the trapped kids. They huddled together, shivering, eyes wide with fear. "I'm here. Just follow my lead." With the final child freed, Jim gripped their shoulders firmly, leading them toward the exit. "Almost there. Just keep moving." But then he heard an ominous creak that rang through the air like a death knell. The building shook around them, and fear spread through his heart like wildfire. "Jim, come on!" Jake's half-shouted plea bounced through the air. He could see his son at the threshold, the safety and warmth of sunlight pouring in next to him. "I'm coming, buddy!" Jim yelled back, adrenaline kicking into overdrive. With each step, the ground trembled more violently beneath him. The shadows seemed to grasp at his legs, urging him back. But he wouldn't let them, he couldn't. He pulled the child close and dashed toward the light, fear grounding him but passion propelling his feet. Jim burst through the opening, pulling the kids out one by one. Just as he reached to grab the last girl, a loud crack echoed behind him. The building shuddered in protest, walls crumbling in slow motion like splintering glass. "Dad!" Jake screamed in terror. "Now!" Jim bellowed, lunging back again to pull the last child, just as the structure gave way, debris cascading down behind him. With a massive crash, he threw himself forward, adrenaline driving him toward the light, colliding with the safety of Jake's arms as everything behind him collapsed into chaos. Time snapped back into focus as Jim landed hard on the ground. Dust swirled in the air, but sunlight poured around them like the dawn of a new era. He lay there, breathless and shaken, feeling Jake's body press against him, safety embodied in his son's warmth. "Dad, you did it. You saved them!" Jake shouted, voice trembling with excitement and fear. "I couldn't have done it without you, kiddo," Jim panted, tears brimming as pride surged through him. But as they pulled away, Jim saw the anxious faces in the crowd gather around them, a reminder of fear and vulnerability they defaced. "Hey!" he called out to Jake, gathering them both amidst the now roaring festival. The music and laughter felt sweeter than ever. "We did it. Together. The raw emotion in Jake's gaze spoke volumes, a blend of fear, relief, and newfound respect. He nodded, the meaning of their shared experience dawning lightly upon them. As they walked back towards the people who had gathered, Jim felt a sense of renewal flood through him, deep and real. They had faced fear together, knowing that healing takes time. But now, they were a family stepping forward, hands clasped tightly, ready for whatever came next. In the middle of a bustling festival, through the laughter and the night's twinkling lights, Jim realized there was no better harvest than the love and resilience they had forged together. And as dawn broke in the warmth of their little corner of the world, they embraced this transformation, dispelling the darkness they had once danced with. He turned to Jake, a fierce determination in his heart. "No more hiding, you hear? Together means moving forward. I promise." Jake's smile turned radiant, the shadows of doubt lifting as Jay nodded again, "Together." As the festival pulsed with the rhythm of life, each heartbeat carried the weight of their rebirth, threading them into a complex tapestry they weave together, with the golden promise of the future ahead. Now, let us not forget this transformative journey. We need your support to keep sharing these stories. You need to subscribe now to ride along with us through heartwarming stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button, and let us keep our community thriving. Comment below on your favorite part of this emotional journey. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we'll grow this amazing family.